The first letter arrived folded too neatly, like it was proud of itself. I found it tucked under my windshield wiper, fluttering in the breeze beside my old fishing boat. The paper was stiff, official, and smug all at once. "Oh, violation notice." It read in bold letters. According to them, my boat was creating ripples on the lake and disturbing the aesthetic harmony of the community. They demanded I move it immediately or face fines. I laughed at first, a short, tired laugh that echoed across the quiet water. They had no idea who they were talking to. And more importantly, they had no idea who owned the lake. I'd lived by that water for nearly 20 years. The lake wasn't just scenery to me, it was memory. I'd bought the land long before the HOA existed, back when the shoreline was wild and the water was still clear enough to see your reflection without distortion. My late wife and I used to sit on the dock at dawn, coffee in hand, listening to birds wake up one by one. After she passed, the lake became my refuge. Some days, the boat was the only reason I got out of bed, the only thing that reminded me that peace still existed somewhere in the world. The hoe came later. Developers bought the surrounding parcels, drained some wetlands, and slapped up identical houses with identical mailboxes. They promised luxury lakeside living, and soon enough, rules followed. Rules about grass height, rules about paint colors, rules about noise. I ignored most of it because I wasn't part of the home. My property was separate, grandfathered in, or so I thought. A week after the first letter, another arrived, this time by certified mail. The tone had changed. No more polite suggestions. Now it was threats, fines, legal action. They claimed the boat was disruptive, that its presence caused waves that reached their docks and disturbed residents trying to enjoy the serenity of the lake. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, staring at the words, feeling something heavy settle in my chest. Not fear, not yet. It was sadness mixed with disbelief. How did we get here, where peace was something regulated by committees and clipboards? I decided to attend the next home meeting. The community center was packed. Rows of chairs facing a long table where board members sat like judges. When I walked in, conversations hushed. I knew the looks of curiosity mixed with judgment. A woman with perfectly styled hair and a smile that didn't reach her eyes stood up. She introduced herself as the HOA president and immediately launched into a speech about community standards and shared responsibility. When she mentioned my boat, several heads turned toward me. I stood slowly and explained, calmly, that I'd been using that lake long before any of them lived there. I said the boat wasn't a nuisance, that I followed all safety and environmental guidelines. She cut me off, said rules were rules, said no one was above them. Then she dropped the line that made the room go quiet. The lake belongs to the community now. Something in me snapped, and not in anger, but in clarity. I told her she was mistaken, that the lake did not belong to the home. She smiled politely and said their legal team would handle it. The meeting moved on like I hadn't spoken at all. I walked out feeling small, dismissed, like a relic from a past they wanted erased. That night, I pulled out the old documents, deeds yellowed with age, surveys, maps. I remembered the day I signed them, the handshake deal that turned into a legal reality. I owned not just my land, but the lake itself. All of it, the water, the bed, the shoreline. It had been part of the original purchase, a detail developers either missed or assumed they could overpower later. The next morning, I called my lawyer, a good man, patient, sharp. He listened quietly, then chuckled. "They really fined you for ripples?" he asked. I could hear the smile in his voice. Within days, he had everything in order. A response letter went out, not defensive, not emotional, just factual. It included copies of the deed and a formal notice. The HOA and its residents were trespassing every time they stepped onto the lake or used it without permission. The reaction was immediate and explosive. I received angry emails, accusations, even threats. They called me selfish, said I was ruining the community. One message said I was holding the lake hostage. That one hurt. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I just wanted respect. I wanted the same quiet dignity I'd given the place for decades. Then came the turning point. The HOA president showed up at my dock, unannounced. No clipboard this time, no entourage. She looked different, less polished, more human. She said they'd reviewed the documents, admitted they were wrong, asked if there was a way to work something out. I told her there was. I wasn't against sharing, I just wouldn't be bullied on my own land. We negotiated access agreements, clear boundaries, reasonable rules that respected both sides, and yes, Vanessa for past trespass. Symbolic but necessary. Not to hurt them, but to remind them that power doesn't come from loud voices or fancy titles. It comes from truth, from patience, from knowing your worth. The day the agreement was signed, I took my boat out at sunrise. The water was still, smooth as glass. As I drifted, I thought about my wife, about how she used to say the lake had a way of teaching people who they really were. I believe that it had taught me to stand my ground without losing my heart. Now, when I see families enjoying the shore, kids skipping stones, neighbors waving from their docks, there's a different feeling in the air. Not tension, not control, but mutual respect. The whole learned that community isn't about domination, it's about understanding. And I learned that sometimes, the quietest ripples can create the biggest change.